everybody. I hope you're well. Welcome to episode 11 of Homeopathic Voices from Around the World.
Woohoo!
Oh, this is great, isn't it? How come it always works first time with you? This is so good.
No, this is great. Well,
You know what that means, right? You know, this means that you have to come on at least
more
once a
often.
month.
Okay, we'll do it. I have so much to talk to you tonight. So
Good,
much.
good. Well, for the listeners, just so you know, welcoming Dr. Lauri Grossman back from the National Center for Homeopathy in the USA. Lauri is the president there. And this is the second time she's back on Homeopathic Voices, so it's a true delight. The first time was episode 3, which you can find on my YouTube. Just click the link in my Instagram bio and you can play back. And that was a fun conversation, but today we've got so much to talk about. And I am wide awake, even though it's late.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I'm sitting here with my cell phone in one hand and my computer over here because there's so much I want to discuss today.
Good.
So, and I don't want to forget anything. So
I've actually I've got some notes as well because there is so much to talk about.
Yeah.
But firstly, although it's slightly late, Happy New Year to you and your family.
Thank
and
you. You too.
Technically, it's not too late because usually people just about get woken up around this time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's very true. Well, and also, at least on the East Coast of the States, we're getting a little warmer now. We were in such a cold spell, so I think people are coming out of hibernation.
Yeah, it's
We
been
are really, I mean, some places are still pretty cold, but we're coming out of it.
it's still cold here. We've had 2 storms, and you know, my fence has come down, which it does every single year, irrespective of whether I reinforce it or not. So I don't even know if I need a fence anymore. But hey, you know. Right?
There you go.
Now, so much to talk about. But first, I wanted to ask you, what have you been up to over the last sort of week? How was your festive period, and how was the start to the new year?
Well, one of my little grandchildren was sick over the holidays, so I kind of like found myself waking up to 2024 a week or two after it had already begun because I was focusing on my family. So it was a funny way to start a new year by not even thinking of the new year as as it really began. And let's see, how did that change things for me? I'm not quite sure. You know what it was? It blurred the distinction between 2023 and 2024.
Yeah.
And that is true. It wasn't so much that was the past and this is now. It was a smoother transition, kind of like, when you look at a rainbow, it's not red, orange, yellow, all the colors kind of blend. So that's how it transitioned for me.
Yeah, that's very eloquently said, and I actually agree with you. The same is for me. It was blurred. It was just a continuation, right?
Yeah.
The days they go by so fast anyway, don't they? And it's just like there's so much going on at any one time. So
Yeah.
it's just a transition, wasn't it?
Literally. And the National Center for Homeopathy also adopted a very big venture in 2023. And so I guess I was so focused on that and how are we going to really make this happen, that I wasn't thinking of time. I was just, it's kind of like one step in front of the other, just keep putting one step in front of the other.
Yeah. But hey, it's going to be an amazing year because get ready, everybody. If you're not aware already, especially for live and of course those who will listen back, the Joint American Homeopathic Conference is being held in Reston, Virginia, and that's going to take place this year in April from the 19th to the 21st. And not only is the conference taking place, but as you very well know, certainly from my social media, the film introducing homeopathy will also be screened for the first time in its entirety. And we're going to talk about that later as well, because I know the National Centre is so heavily involved in that.
Yes.
But do tell me about the JAHC, because it's a big deal, and looking at the stellar lineup of which includes your good self, by the way,
Thank you.
looking at the stellar lineup of presenters, it's really one not to be missed this year.
So thank you for saying that. And let me start with kind of like letting our listeners in on the environment that's leading to this conference.
Hmm.
So number one, at this conference, the National Center for Homeopathy will turn 50 years old. And for a not-for-profit dedicated towards holistic health, that is astonishing.
Hmm.
There are very few not-for-profits that have lasted that long. And so it's really a milestone that we're all very excited about. And when I think of the National Center way back in 1974, there were no computers at the time. There was no internet at the time. When we wanted to gather, it had to be in person. There was no Zoom. I remember when I first found out about homeopathy, looking for books in used bookstores in New York City, and then asking people to what countries I should travel to meet homeopaths. And I couldn't Google homeopath France or homeopath
Yeah.
Greece. I had to go there. And so we have a whole different environment now. And the National Center has committed itself to stepping up to the plate to really making the changes that will make us effective for another 50 years and then 50 years after that. But so the statistics that we're looking at, and I'll share that with everybody, is right now homeopathy is used by 2% of the people in the United States.
Right.
That's such a little amount, but it's not so much that it's a low number. It's that it's a low number when there are 30 million people in the United States who don't have access to adequate health care. Either they don't have the funds or they don't have the ability to get to good health care. So we're in a world that needs homeopathy so desperately. It's low cost. It doesn't have harmful side effects. I mean, most of our listeners know this. There's more and more research that backs
Hmm.
homeopathy now. So that is why this is such a special conference, because the National Center for Homeopathy, with the support of all the other homeopathic organizations, we are launching this $5 million campaign drive to bring homeopathy around the world to a new level, where more people who need health care can have heard it, find out about it, hear about it, can find a good practitioner, know where to go to either meet a good practitioner or to purchase the appropriate remedies, how to get the education to know what you can do in your own home, and also what things might be outside someone working in the home, their skill levels, so that they feel confident about calling somebody else, either a professional homeopath, a medical doctor, a nurse, any sort of healthcare practitioner who is well trained in homeopathy. So we decided to have many more speakers at this conference. We actually have a day of checking it out. So our conferences have always been Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but this year, our conferences have always been Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This year, we have a check it out day, which is Thursday, and you could just listen to, I think there's a lineup of 18 speakers, or there's 18 hours of speakers, and some of the world's finest
Wow.
speakers. And you could just listen in, and then you could upgrade to attending for the 3-day conference, or one more day, or 2 more days, or 3 days. So before I forget to say it, all the information about the conference is listed at jahc.info. So jahc.info.
Okay.
And of course, you mentioned the film. Friday night will be the first screening of Introducing Homeopathy, the film, and all the filmmakers and the different homeopaths who were interviewed for the film are just so excited that it's really going to happen.
Hey, I'm trying my very best. Fingers crossed. Let's see how things develop, but hopefully I'll see you there, you know?
Oh, that'd be fabulous.
Yeah.
And
Um,
for those people who want to come, I really, really look forward to seeing you. And people who can't travel either because you're taking care of children or you have older relatives that you care for, or your funds won't allow you to travel or stay at a hotel, this is a hybrid conference so that you can attend either virtually or in person. And again, if you go to the website jahc.info, you could find out information about both attending in person and also online.
You know, for the purposes of the listeners, certainly the ones who will listen after the live, which is quite a huge number afterwards, it'll go up on YouTube, of course. Speakers include Franz Vermeulen, Miranda Castro, Dr. Farouk Master, Alistair Gray, Kim Elia, producer for the film Introducing Homeopathy, Mitchell Fleischer, Samir Chokar, who actually was on Insta today, Gaurang Gakewood from India, and of course the one and the only and totally irreplaceable Dr. Lauri Grossman. It's going to be brilliant, isn't it? It's so good that you're actually presenting
Well,
as
thank
well.
you. Thank you. I think I found my niche that I love to speak at. I really love introducing homeopathy to either physicians, nurses, doctors, chiropractors, acupuncturists who have practices, who want to improve their patient outcomes and want
Mm,
to see how they can introduce homeopathy into their practice. And then I love teaching people who are using homeopathy in the home, not professionals. And I actually love evaluating each remedy. Okay, which remedies are the easiest to use? Which remedies give the most bang for the buck? Like you'll really see a difference quickly.
mm,
And I actually love now speaking to the administrators and the educators of all the different homeopathy schools in the US and also abroad in the UK, in South Africa, in India. And I like to hear at your different schools, are there any topics that don't quite get covered completely for the beginner?
mm.
For the beginning, I'm not talking about the people that enter complete 4-year programs. And so I love filling in those little holes for someone who doesn't have the time or the interest or the effort to go into a 4-year program. um, so I'll be teaching, I think at this conference I'm teaching insomnia in children or sleep problems in children.
Oh, very
And
pertinent.
that's very pertinent. One of the main
Mm,
complaints in health in pediatrics. But one thing that I was looking at the overall program and things that make me excited about it are number one, we have a lot of speakers who are going to go into depth about the various high level homeopathic medicines. How, so this is really for practitioners now, healthcare practitioners, how to use the bowel nosodes, how to use isopathy correctly, how to use the other nosodes. And so we really have master homeopaths teaching those classes. Then we have people who excel in some otherwise hard to treat areas, like um, Dr. Chandak will be speaking about treating kids with autism
mm.
and severe psychiatric problems. And those issues, these are not units for home prescribers, but people who are in practice who really want assistance in treating some of these very, very tricky um, conditions. We have really good homeopaths. At the same time, the interest in homeopathy for animals is skyrocketing, and the interest in homeopathy in the garden and on farms is skyrocketing. So we have some excellent, Richard Pitcairn is speaking. He's one of the finest veterinary homeopaths there is in the States, at least. And so we have several veterinary homeopaths that are going to be speaking about homeopathy for pets. and for farm animals.
Mm.
And we also have several speakers who will be discussing agro-homeopathy, which is becoming bigger and bigger. And oh goodness, it behooves people to follow the research. The Homeopathy Research Institute is sharing extraordinary research, and speakers from HRI. Rachel Roberts will be at the conference. So, and Denise Stragus and Alastair Gray will be presenting sessions on research in homeopathy. They have a project called Home, and their project, they have a clinic, and they're gathering tremendous amounts of data so that they can really present a big study. And sometimes one of the biggest problems with homeopathic research is that our studies are just too small.
Mm.
So through Alastair and Denise's very good work, we really are going to have some studies with big sample size, and that's critical for the acceptance of homeopathy.
It's really nice that Rachel's going to be there because she's coming on the podcast not too far off in the future,
Ah,
you know. So there's so much to ask, and it's so nice that you mentioned agrohomeopathy because everyone I'm speaking to, certainly here in Ireland, in New Zealand, and it really is gaining a lot of traction. And the reason it's gaining traction is because it's doing wonders for not only animals. I mean, that's a separate area, but for generally I find farmers are using it, so they use it on their cattle, and of course then they start using it on their land and on their crops and on their grass and it's and plants as well, and it's absolutely incredible. The results are fascinating, aren't they? It's literally the same remedies that you use for humans are used for animals. There's no differentiation, so it's not complicated, is it? It's just straightforward.
and there was one study that I think everybody sitting next to me at the last conference I attended, they were gobsmacked. This study on strawberries,
Mm.
and that with the use of homeopathy, less pesticides were needed to grow the strawberries. The strawberries had more flavor. They were more nutritious. There were so many different levels. And believe it or not, strawberries is one of the crops that the most pesticides are used in the production of strawberries. So it becomes a huge health problem for the pickers.
Mm.
So if you lessen the amount of chemicals that go on the strawberries because of homeopathy, then you lessen the health problems of the pickers. And it just, everything like this little step forward adds to that little step forward. And it just, it grows and grows. So, there were studies, I think I even mentioned it to you the last time you interviewed me on fish farms and with scallops and snails and various seafood, how introducing homeopathy to the waters pr- provided for healthier and less disease-ridden, seafood. And they are now using homeopathy in lakes, the tiniest little dose. You talk about infinite dosage. The tiniest little dose of
It's
homeopathy
amazing.
is providing lasting effects to the cleaning up of lakes. I mean, excuse me for not remembering the name of the study or the lake, but Homeopathy Research Institute has these papers. GIRI is another research society that's global that has researchers from South America, from Asia, from Europe. The research is getting better and better, and the outcomes are getting better and better.
It's only going to go upwards, and I think again, I think that as you mentioned, for anyone interested, um, just visit the website, even if you can't attend or it's a hybrid session like Dr. Laurie has mentioned. But certainly go to the website jahc.info and just see the lineup. Like I said, it's a stellar lineup of people who really know truly what they're talking about and actually have the experience in that field itself, so they're presenting from their own personal experiences, and I think it's so important, and it's really exciting times, isn't it? It's I'm excited
Yeah.
already,
Well, also, and at the same time, uh, we at the National Center, everyone on the board, this year we made it our we made a huge effort to make sure we connected with the other homeopathic
Mm.
organizations. And this includes advocacy groups. It includes, of course, the various different health practitioners, be they doctors, nurses, chiropractors, acupuncturists, whatever. And because, as I said, if only 2% of the people in the US are using homeopathy, we have such a potential for growth if we work together. If my organization creates bylaws that limit the board to just working within ourselves, and then another organization does the exact same thing, and another organization does the exact same thing, we'll move from 2 to 2.1% this year.
Mm.
But if we all work together, we're going to hit 5% very soon, because homeopathy can grow far more efficiently if we share our knowledge, our resources, our efforts, our funding.
Your objectives, your passion, and your zeal is inspiring, I must say. And I think someone of your stature is definitely with the NCH. You're going to achieve it, and the best wishes to you for that, because it's so needed. If you're already talking about just 2%, and there are millions of people suffering, and it's not just the US, everywhere, isn't it? It's like this everywhere, and you so much wish that they had this accessibility to healthcare. It's so important. And we're not saying ditch everything, but we're saying those people who don't even have healthcare at all, irrespective of what it is, they have no access. So, homeopathy in those scenarios is it's life changing and it's life saving, right?
Yes, and so I'll share a little story. So I worked with Homeopath Without Borders after the earthquake in Haiti.
Mm.
And what amazed me was that in Haiti, there were so many people that didn't have homes. If they built themselves a shelter, they didn't have running water or electricity or toilets or refrigeration. But the one thing everybody had was a cell phone. Well, now that so many
That was
homeopaths,
timely, wasn't it, that?
well, yeah. So now that the pandemic had a lot of bad things that went along with it, but boy, oh boy, there were some beautiful advances that happened during that
Mm.
time. So now that there's so many homeopaths that can provide telehealth services or video services, you could live almost anywhere in the universe and get access to a good homeopath. So now that part of the equation is taken care of.
Mm.
It's really all about educating people to let them know that homeopathy is here. That's it. We don't have to now build roads and airplanes and trains to get people to the homeopaths. That's taken care of. That was a huge factor in the past. If you lived in a big city or a big city that had a lot of focus on holism, then you could find yourself a homeopath. But that factor, you could live on a mountaintop in Montana. You could live in a small tribe in Africa and, in the outback of Australia, and you could get yourself access to a good homeopath. And the beautiful thing is that homeopaths who live in these regions, they can advance their training
Mm.
online. We have registrations from so many registrants that come from so many different countries, and they don't have the funds to take an airplane and then to take a car service and then to check into a hotel. But
Mm.
they can come to our conference and attend all 3 days and see the presentation of the movie if they sign up virtually. It's astonishing. You can study with the best homeopaths who specialize in severe psychiatric disorders. You can study with homeopaths that study with severe strep infections, choices besides antibiotics for strep infections.
Mm.
Your children have, insomnia or anxiety, depression, all these things that have skyrocketed in recent years. We have the best of the best that are teaching these classes.
Well, no, thank you very much for actually sort of focusing on that. I think it's so, so important what you've said, and it's wonderful, isn't it? Like you said, everybody has a mobile device, and that's one of the benefits to homeopathy now, where it is so accessible. And it's just a matter of, hey, join, get involved, learn as much as you can, and you will not be disappointed because homeopathy truly is a life changer, even if you just restrict it to your own home, your family and friends or colleagues. It can truly be life changing,
Yeah,
and it removes that, Laurie, it removes that fear, doesn't it, of certainly acute diseases, because you know how to deal with them, and you know what remedies will be applicable according to the, to when once you've observed the patient, and it removes that fear, doesn't it? Oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? It's like, okay, well, this is the situation. These are the symptoms. This is the individual. These are the remedies. And we're not talking thousands and thousands of remedies. Probably for acutes, the common 20 or 30
right,
remedies
right.
are more than enough, aren't they?
I used to say that when people move to a new apartment in New York City, they always make sure that in their medicine cabinet, they have aspirin, they have something for
Mm.
diarrhea, they have Band-Aids, they have maybe some antibacterial cream. Everybody has that. Every single apartment in New York City. Wouldn't it be wonderful if every single apartment had the five most common remedies?
Mm.
Just something for cuts, something for burns, something for bumps, something for fever in babies. That's it. Wouldn't that be
Absolutely.
lovely?
It would be.
I wonder how much that little move could improve the health of our city, our community, our country, our continent, the world. Simple, simple baby
Yeah,
steps. And so
absolutely.
if we at our at our conference, if we could one give information to people who want to just take care of their families so that they get good information and they know where they're safe and they know when to call somebody else. If we could improve the 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 um, the effectiveness of people who are in beginning practice. So we move them to the next level. So when someone comes to them, they're getting better results with more of their patients.
Mm.
And then if we could expand the reach of master homeopaths who could sit with physicians that work in hospitals, naturopaths that work in hospitals, nurses that work in hospitals, when I attended the Liga conference in Bogota recently, what was so striking to me was that in the US, we have a good number of health practitioners who treat the side effects of cancer
Mm.
treatments with homeopathy. It's a growing number and it grows every year. So people who have nausea or burning skin or depression, whatever, physical and emotional concerns during their cancer treatment. There are more and more integrated practitioners that are helping these people. But when I went to the Liga conference, I learned how many doctors around the world are treating the cancer tumors with homeopathy.
Mm.
And when they share their results or their protocols or their methods with people who've been in practice for a while, then where everybody moves up a notch. The very, very beginners, the people in the middle, the people in the middle. I created once for the National Center a graphic where it was a river. And I used to say, if you come to the National Center for Homeopathy, wherever you put your foot in the water, will help carry you downstream a little bit more.
Oh,
So if
that's
you're
so nice,
coming,
actually. I'm picturing that. Yeah,
well, thank you. Maybe it's
very
because I'm a
nice.
swimmer, but like if you're someone who just knows about, um, let's see, what's a common arnica cream for
Mm.
bumps and bruises. If you join the National Center for Homeopathy, we'll help introduce you to something that might help with nerve pain and something that might help with sprains as well. And so we're not going to push you. Slowly, effectively, make sure you're confident in that. Then you move down a little bit further. Maybe you later on begin to learn how to treat allergies, coughs, or colds. That's it. Not pushing anybody, making sure they master those next few remedies. And then maybe they learn a little bit more at the National Center, and maybe they're inspired to enter a program. So they go to school with the New York School of Homeopathy, or Prometheus, or the Los Angeles School of Homeopathy, or the Academy for Education of AHE, the school that Denise Astrages and Al run, the School for Homeopathic Education. And you learn, you study on weekends, or you study for 1 year, 2 year, or you enter their 4 year program, whatever it is. The National Center for Homeopathy, our goal is to be there with you as you're still in the stream, to bolster you up, to provide you with the resources. Perhaps you need a little more information, articles in our magazine, just to make sure that you feel like, wow, I'm getting a lot of information here. I'm okay. This is organized, and I'm getting what I need so that I can really help increasing numbers of people with more confidence.
You know what I love about what you're saying and how you work is the fact that one, I was just thinking, it's almost like you're raising individual potencies as people learn. You're going up a notch. And number two is the fact that homeopathy is very individualized, and you are actually giving each person who wants to learn individual guidance. And I think that's so commendable because it's going to go such a long way. And it's it's so sensible as well, isn't it, to not to push somebody and just get them to learn and experience, and then within a period of 12 months, which, as you know, flies by, they'll be pretty much confident with pretty much most of the acute ailments, certainly, and what to do in those times. So it's wonderful, that is.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm glad you love it, because I love it too. I mean, it comes over time. I've been in practice for a very, very long time. I've been on the board of the National Center for a long time as well. God knows, maybe 10 years or something like that. And so over time, I'm just getting smarter because I hear more voices. I become a better listener. When people get angry at me, I can say, okay, don't run away. Stick with me.
Yeah.
Stick with me. Please stick with me, and guide me so that I do a better job. And 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 I think a lot of it comes from my being a mother and a grandmother. It's like, I come from a very close-knit family, and there was nothing more important to my mother than our working together. And so I think that people enter homeopathy from all different entry points. They enter with different perspectives. They select different teachers. Different teachers teach different approaches. And there's some people that, polarity analysis is all they will ever use, and it feels right to them, and that's great. And then there are other people who only use the sensation method or the classical homeopaths. And yet, for many people, at some point, it's like, well, let me open up a new door. Let me try something else and see if that either works well with it together, if I integrate the two, or if another method of analysis is more effective for me for different conditions, or when I do it together. And I think some of the smartest people that I know are people that are not afraid to try new things. And so
Absolutely.
that's what I hope our conference does. I hope our conference allows people to study what they love studying and how they love studying it. But I also hope the conference gives people the opportunity to try something. You don't have to get married to it. To say, I've never done that before. Maybe I'll sit there for, a 45-minute presentation and see if it works for me. I at the Liga conference, I was speaking to Carl Robinson, and he did a presentation on a system of case analysis that I had never heard of. And please forgive me, Carl, I can't remember the name of it. He had studied with another homeopath, and he found this to be incredibly helpful for him. And I was delighted at the legal conference how many people came to hear him speak, to hear this new way of looking at cases. And Carl's fabulous because he'll make it playful for people. I think at this conference, he wants people to take cases with him, not just listen to him do the case, but actually to work it out with him. Everybody works it out with him. And he's an incredibly supportive and caring educator. So, and he's just one of many. So we have a lot of people who will be teaching methods of analysis in a way that they know they're going to be people who've never done it before that way. And they might want to give it a shot, a shot.
I love that. I love that as well. And to make things interactive is so important, isn't it, for learning anyway?
Yeah.
Um, and that's great. I wanted to ask you actually, with the conference and everything that you've mentioned and the speakers. So the speakers predominantly uh, over the next sort of 2 days, and there's a day of introduction, or is it just 3 days?
Thursday is the kind of like trial
Yeah.
day. I mean, anybody can listen to that, and it's 18 hours of presentation. And I think it starts at like 8 a.m. and it goes until midnight. And on all topics, and some Andre Sane is one of the presenters. There are lots of people that are presenting very varied topics, and then there are 3 days, 3 full days of presentations, and those are both in person and virtual.
Hmm.
So there will be some, and that's the beauty of a hybrid conference. The most speakers in the Thursday, that's all online. The Friday, Saturday, Sunday is almost all in person. However, excellent speakers who were unable to travel, we're going to have them make their presentation, and it'll be put on a big screen in front of the classroom, which is great. Some of our best homeopaths are aging and they don't want to travel anymore. And instead of missing out on them now, they can continue to do their research, they can continue to improve their methods and be a part of the community.
I think that's brilliant because you're absolutely using technology for the betterment of people's health,
Yeah.
So, but hey, Laurie, that takes me on to introducing homeopathy, which hopefully, with any movie, we can't always be certain of an exact date, but it looks like Friday the 19th will be the first full edit screening
Mm-hmm.
of the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know the National Centre has been very proactive and very supportive of the film, of course, and involved right from the start, should I say? So yeah, what's your take, and how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Kim, by the way, is on again for part two of the two-part podcast special. Uh, I'm actually recording him this Sunday, so that's
Okay,
an
well,
exclusive,
tell
and
him
it's
I
going to be out then
say,
after.
tell him I say hi. Well, we were involved from the start, mainly because ever since I became on the board of the National Center, every project that I've worked with Kim was stellar.
Hmm.
Don't forget that in 2020, we were going to have a conference, and then there was a lockdown.
Hmm.
And our hotel wouldn't give us our money back, and we had not a penny to invest in anything. And Kim called us up and he said, I'll make it happen. And on a shoestring budget, we created our first, it wasn't hybrid because there was nothing in person, but we presented our first online conference. And it was a massive success. Every homeopathic organization participated. All of us who hadn't, we were all in isolation. I mean, this was not a matter of everybody works in their own office. No one was leaving their home.
Hmm.
And that conference allowed us to share, to reach out to each other, to prove that homeopathy can survive the most difficult of times. And there was so many questions. Are people focusing on genus epidemicus? Are people well, what are you focusing on treating? Please tell me what remedies, are helping you through this time. And I so appreciated Kim Aaliyah for that. And then from that, we had worked on many projects with Kim, and they were all very successful. So that when Kim came up with this idea for the film, it was a yes from the go. And also, he knew that he was going to only work with the best of the best cinematographers, the best script writers. And from the start of the film, it has only gotten better and better and better. So I will admit, at the very beginning of the film, there were some weaknesses, but everything has been. Kim called in a team of experienced homeopaths and wanted everybody's input. And so he revised, he called in new people, he called in people to contribute who hadn't been involved at the beginning. And he and his wife Mickey were exemplary in their humility in saying, okay, this part of the film might be weak. What do you guys suggest? They called in people who had all different backgrounds in homeopathy. It wasn't like they, worked with this tight-knit group. It was people from everywhere in different countries as well. He interviewed homeopaths in Romania and leading homeopaths in veterinary medicine and leading homeopaths in people medicine. And so it's a very rounded film. He's taken a lot of time to make sure that the viewer is brought from the place of not knowing anything about homeopathy to finally towards the end of the film going, wow, I got to give this a try. So as part of that, let's move from 2% to 5%. The film clearly meets its vision.
I was talking to Kim just a few days ago because we were doing some recordings. It's a surprise, I can't share them, but anyway, we were doing something. And I showed him the trailer that is on my Insta, one of the latest trailers, which features you, by the way, in introducing homeopathy, because you are also in that film and part of that. And Kim won't mind me saying, but he said, Lauri's excellent in this. And I just thought I'd share that with you.
Thank you.
You can confer with him if you want.
Well, I speak from the heart, and for me, and I will say this forever, the fact that homeopathy was effect that I found in my lifetime, homeopathy has been effective for me and my family. That's okay. But the fact that it's so gentle, the healing can be so gentle and so deep. I just as an act of kindness, I wish that more people knew about homeopathy. And that's where I come from. It's an act of kindness to be able to share with someone what homeopathy is and the potential it can offer them and their families.
Absolutely. For the listeners, certainly the live and the ones who listen back on YouTube and on Instagram, Dr. Lauri Grossman was on the Homeopathy Health podcast, the podcast I host and produce, and that was episode 47. So do listen to that, because there is a very emotional story in there, which I think everybody needs to hear, and how that proved to be the turning point, certainly for Lauri, who then went on, even though she's here in front of me, but I'm talking to camera now, but how she went on to study with the best homeopaths around the world. And remember, there were no mobile devices at that time, or Google, like we mentioned. And it's definitely one to watch. And of course, I know you're going to be back on the podcast. and you are a series regular anyway now on Insta Live. So the next one is in a month's time, I hope, and we can talk some more about NCH and what you've been up to. And I love talking to you. It's just such a conversation. It's brilliant. You know, it's just like we're having a cup of tea, literally sitting on a couch and just talking all things homeopathy. I love
We
it.
really are
Wait,
having a cup of tea.
oh, that's a big cup.
Yes, it's my way of preventing myself from getting laryngitis when I
Oh,
talk.
okay. So, what else would you like to share? I think we've
Oh,
covered a lot today. It's been
one
excellent.
thing is any of the
Hmm.
listeners, we're offering a discount to the conference for anyone who is a listener to the podcast or to the YouTube show later on. If you could just post the discount code, that would be super duper. It's JAHC. Hang on, I gotta check it out. Do you have it available? Hang on a second. Oh,
Let me
oh,
just
here
have a
we
quick look.
go. JAHC 71009. I'll repeat that for everybody. JAHC 71009, and you will get $20 off if you use that code when you register for the conference.
Brilliant. Please do remember that, and I will actually put that into to the text that follows this. This
Super.
will be up in about 20 minutes after this ends. It will be up on Instagram, but the edited version will be up on, well, actually, there is no editing. Usually the editing is only at the beginning because there's connection problems. So this will be up on YouTube as well in a few hours. So the code will go in the text.
So,
Great.
Atik, you are always a joy to speak to. And I know everyone out there in the world has so many things they could tend to besides just listening to our conversation. So just know your time on the call is appreciated. Anything you can do to help spread knowledge about homeopathy is greatly appreciated. And as I said, especially to people who could really use it, who are really struggling, homeopathy can be a gift to them. So if anybody who's listening attends the JAHC conference, please, if you come in person, come up and say hello to me. I would
I'll do
really
that.
love to shake your hand. Yes, please do. And
Hi,
and
Lauri.
right, and you could always email me at the National Center, info@homeopathycenter.org. But remember, the most important link for this evening is jahc.info. That's how you get the information about registration, the speakers, the different topics, the different there's a visit to various monuments in Washington, D.C. The conference is in Reston, Virginia. For all those people that don't live in the area, Reston, Virginia is very close to Washington, D.C. So we will have some activities in Washington. The viewing of the film, the conference includes many meals, and the hotel is in this little development that has lovely organic and fabulous little restaurants. So it's and a lot of nice walking paths. So I look
And
forward to seeing people.
there is a discount for those wanting to attend once you've registered at the how do you pronounce it? Hyatt
Yeah.
Hyatt Hotel. But all that info is on the website, so please do go and check it out. And there's something you mentioned I was going to touch upon. Yes, the Hahnemannian or Hahnemann Monument is in Washington, isn't it? So that's something
Yeah,
not to miss while you're there.
we'll have a bus trip. So anyone who wants to come, if you register that you want to go, then you'll get a spot on the bus.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent.
Okay. Please say hi, anybody who's listening. Love to see you.
Lauri, it's been an absolute honor. Honestly, I really value and cherish these opportunities with yourself. Very inspiring. I'm always inspired talking to you. And I will see you in about maybe 4 weeks or maybe less. Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah.
Be fun.
Thank you so very much.
It's my
All right.
pleasure. Okay. Take
Thanks.
good
Take
care.
care.
Okay. Good
Bye.
evening, everyone.